I'd like to introduce everyone to my teammate, Tom Batch. Tom is our Strategic Partnerships Manager here at Leap, and he'll be joining us as moderator today. Welcome, Tom. Could you tell us all a little bit about yourself?
Hey, thanks. I'm assuming you can hear me, Kelly?
I can, yes. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, you put quite the weight there with the best moderator under my name. I usually like lofty goals, but that's a pretty high one. Hopefully I can live up to the expectations. But yeah, appreciate it. I've been in the industry for, I don't know, 21 years, something like that. Started out as a laborer in roofing, worked my way through installing and then project management and subbing out crews and got into sales, and eventually found myself on the technology side of the business, and have been doing this for the last 4 or so years in the technology space of contracting, and have met with thousands of contractors and really appreciate hearing their experiences and learning more from them. And so I'm excited for today's webinar.
Fantastic. So we'll just jump into a little bit about Leap.
Yeah. So I'll tell you a little bit more about Leap. If you don't know, Leap's a digital sales platform. Digitizes everything from estimates to contracts, proposals, financing, which is obviously the topic today at hand. But it's got many more things in there. Secure payment capturing, stored resources. So you've got PDFs and links to videos and any kind of digital resource that you would want to show to your customer. I like to equate Leap to being that tool or piece of software you use from the time that you pull up to the home to do an estimate to the time that you leave there with a signed contract, and that entire process there is all digital through Leap. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go, and more specifically, as it relates to the financing capabilities within Leap. It's really powerful to enable you to not only submit a credit application, but to put that discussion at the forefront of the conversation with the homeowner, and enable your sales reps to offer financing to every customer. One of the things I hear from financing companies is that a lot of contractors will kind of ask if a homeowner needs financing or is interested, and it's usually too late. There's better ways to position that, which I'm thankful that Mike's on to help us walk through how they position financing.
Fantastic, and that's a perfect segue to introduce Mike.
Yeah. So I'm really happy to have Mike on the call today. Mike is a co-founder of Universal Windows Direct, and certainly you can read the many accolades on the screen here. But I think Mike's got an interesting story. I always find it funny to know, how does somebody get into this industry? And it's usually you don't grow up saying, hey, I want to be a roofer, I want to install windows, or that's usually not one of those things. And I have those discussions with my kids, they want to be a dancer and a doctor and all these different things, right? And nobody aspires to be in the trades. And so I always find it interesting, how you ended up in the trades. Mike's got a great story, and I certainly don't want to steal any of his thunder. But starting out, really small, after the events of 9/11 unfolded, with a childhood friend, and the two of them kind of, put boots on the ground and went knocking on doors, and really grew the business from there to where it's at today, with revenue, over $100 million, multiple locations and stuff. And so with that, Mike, I want to kind of hand it over to you, and certainly I don't want to do any disservice. You've got a great story to tell, so I'll let you pick it up from there.
I appreciate it, Tom. Thanks for having me today, and hello to everyone out there in the webinar land. Yeah, so the team at Leap contacted me and asked me if I would speak to not only how we use Leap, but how we got to where we are today, and also how the financing side has affected our business. So with that said, I'll kind of give you the elevator pitch to the Universal Windows Direct story. Basically, it was Bill and I, my business partner, we worked at a home improvement company in Northeast Ohio when we were kids, basically knocking on doors. Worked our way up at that company, became salesmen and sales managers of the company, and we both kind of saw that entrepreneur spirit that was happening within the company. I had an opportunity to move out to Maryland and start a furniture company And I went ahead and did that. About 8 months later, 9/11 happened. Bill and I were keeping in touch the whole time while he was working at the home improvement company. And I said, hey, my new fiance is kind of homesick and she wants to come home. I think I'm going to be coming home. And what are you going to do? And he's like, I don't know, but I want to start something myself. So we had this infamous lunch that we call the Clifton Lunch, basically where we sat down and we discussed what we were going to do. The problem was neither one of us had any money. I had about $1,500 and he had about $1,300. So we kind of took all that money, put it together, and because we were limited with our finances and only had $2,800 to our name, the only thing we could invest in were clipboards. And we knew the business well, so he would knock on one side of the street, I would knock on the other side of the street, and I would run his leads, he would run my leads, and we were off and running. In fact, in the very, very beginning, our first sale ever was our phone man. He was coming in to install our phones at in our 200 square foot office where we had desks back to back. And Bill asked the phone man, hey, do you need any window siding or doors? And the guy said, you know what? I actually do need some siding. So we scrambled. We didn't even have a siding kit. We scrambled that day. I remember Bill saying, hey, I got to run to the supply house and see if they have a siding kit. Ran into Joe Carlton's home and ended up selling the job for $15,000 and getting a $7,000 deposit. It was a cash deal at the time because we didn't have financing, and we were off and running. Fast forward a little bit later, as we were growing the company, we grew the revenues up to about $6 million, but we weren't really offering the financing end of the arm of our business yet. Most of our deals, I would say 98% of our deals, we were looking for cash deals. And it wasn't until we started offering financing that things changed. But as you fast forward even to today, we've grown into 9 retail locations. We have 30 dealership locations across the United States, and we do upwards of $100 million now worth of business. There's a lot of in between, but I don't want to bore you with the hard work. But that's basically how we got started. A lot of hard work, and I'm sure a lot of you that are out there in the webinar right now have a very similar story to where you're kind of cash strapped and you had to do what you had to do, and you're making decisions today that will affect how your tomorrow actually goes. So I certainly can appreciate where you guys are today, and because I was there myself, it's just some key decisions will help you grow the business, and that's why we're here today.
Yeah, that's really it's a really good story, Mike. And I know you certainly didn't dwell on some of the hard work and the details there that went into it. But how'd you go from the two of you to where you're at today? How were you able to not only grow the business but scale it? So that you could put in the best practices that you and Bill had to, I guess for lack of a better word, disseminate that to the greater team.
Yeah, each day was a different day for us, and we would literally just address one problem as it came. It wasn't until about 2007, 2008, we actually started departmentalizing the business, and we realized, hey, we can't cross-pollinate over to other departments. You have to be specific to that department, and you have to be specific to that department. Because in the very beginning of a business, you're doing everything. You're a jack of all trades. So to be able to scale the business, we knew first and foremost, we needed to departmentalize the business. And that's exactly what we did. Right around that time, that's when we started offering financing to our customers, giving them an option to go ahead and do a larger project with us. When the minute we started offering that financing to the customers, our average ticket price actually grew by about 30%. And we were able to do a lot of add-ons, what we call shake, fries, and pies. While we're in the home, Tom, where the customer now is focused on that monthly payment and adding a new entry door to the project is only like $20 a month. Well, it's a lot difference to be paying $20 a month versus pulling $3,000 out of your pocket. So it's able us to add shake, fries, and pies, and it really is a testament to how we've been able to scale our business.
Yeah, no, totally makes sense. And I think what homeowners appreciate the most on why financing is most effective is because everything we buy today seems like it's offered in a monthly payment. I had to unfortunately get a new cell phone because mine broke, and they said, yeah, you can pay, I don't know, it was like $1,100 or something, or we can just add $30 a month to your bill. I said, we'll just do that. That's great, and give me the best, the newest and greatest iPhone. And so it really takes the attention away from what that total sticker is to what what kind of payment can I afford today. Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
great. Before we get into some of the more pertinent financing details, just interested in how you were, what kind of sales process you put in place, and I'm assuming you did put a sales process in place. And obviously Leap's a part of your business, but what else did you do to kind of standardize that sales process? And is it an evolving thing?
Yeah, sales and marketing is very important to the structure of our business and the growth of our business, and it's something that we work on daily and constantly. I can't think of a day that we're not training on sales and marketing. In fact, our 30,000 square foot building that we built last year has a world-class training facility where it can sit up to 100 sales reps. And we can broadcast that over a webinar to our other locations. So we're constantly fine-tuning our sales process. And one of the things that we have fine-tuned over the years is how we ask for financing in the home. And what we do is we do that early on in the early stages of asking questions with the homeowner. One of the key questions we ask in the very beginning with a homeowner is, if and when you were to do a project like this, Tom, would you most likely be paying with cash, or would you like to take part in a monthly investment? Now, a lot of times the customer may not answer that question. 50% of the time we get back, well, that all depends. But our sales force is trained to dig a little bit deeper and literally sidestep the answer by saying, I know you don't know, but if you had to make a decision right now, would you most likely pay with cash or financing? And that a lot of times the customer will say, well, probably we'll go with the monthly investment, but it all depends on the price. And that allows us to know how we're going to present the price at the end of the presentation. In fact, even when they do tell us that they're going to pay cash for the project, Tom, we still offer them a monthly investment of 3 choices, just in case they don't want to pay cash. And a lot of times that's when we do the add-ons. They were expecting to spend $7,000. You're in the home now at $10,000. By laying down those 3 different options for payments, it allows us to add to the job and get a larger sales price. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I think that led into our next slide with about when the right time was. So I appreciate that. I know some companies will even offer it, or I don't know if they offer, but they put it in the minds of the customer when they call in. I don't know if that's something that you guys do or not, but I've heard where when they call in, they answer the phone with home of the 12-month no type of thing. Yeah, thank you for calling. And proceed that way, where they've kind of planted the seed. Do you do any of that?
No, we have in the past.
Okay.
We do it sometimes at shows. You have to remember that there is a cost to financing, so we'd much rather the customer pay cash if they had to, if I'm being completely honest. But we will do it in certain situations when the customer is over a 75-mile radius. We will get into more of those financing questions with them up front. And in fact, we'll try to get them pre-qualified before we even go out there. By having that option, though, we know, hey, this is worth running out to the customer's house. We already have them pre-qualified. and our marketing team will do that for us before we even go into the home.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome. Yeah, so I know we kind of touched on this slide a little bit before, but the right time to survey the homeowner and how much they want to spend. That's done in that initial I call it a warm up, or the initial greeting with the homeowner.
In the initial greeting with the homeowner, mainly what we're doing is price conditioning. We're letting them know a project of this size is normally going to cost on the low end this, and on the high end this. So what we're doing is price conditioning. About 5 minutes in after that is when we get into, now that you know that a project is going to cost between this end and this end, would you most likely pay cash, or would you most likely pay finance or take part in a monthly investment?
Yeah, and what's behind the most likely phrase in there? What is it, the reaction you're looking to get out of the homeowner?
You're looking, by presenting the question that way, you're looking to get an answer. You're giving them an alternative choice question, and that's a technique that we've all learned in sales over the years. Is you want to be in control and ask the question the right way. And it's very important that you ask the customer in a very crystal ball, if and when conversation. If you walk in there, Tom, and just say, hey, so are you going to pay cash for this job, or are you going to finance it? You know, obviously the customer will be like, whoa, hold on a second here, brother.
Yeah.
But if you ask the question in a crystal ball mode, and you told them right off the bat, hey, listen, a window project like this, 10 windows can cost as low as $3,000 on the low end for the cheap Charlie stuff, or it can cost as high as $12,000. Knowing what you know, and listen, customers know that because you made that statement, that you're probably going to fall somewhere in the middle, right? That's why you're making the statement. So they're processing that number in their head right off the bat. And by the time you get to that question, they can answer with you. So you absolutely have to ask the questions in an if and when manner, because if you don't, it'll come across as very, very aggressive. And I imagine that. I think, Tom, a lot of new contractors are afraid to have finance conversations with customers. You know, when you have been in their home for a couple hours, you're allowed to ask a little in-depth questions, more in-depth questions with the customer. We'll go as far as getting into their budget at the very end, and literally see if that monthly investment will fit for them. If it doesn't, we'll flat out tell them, this does not fit in your budget. This does not make sense for you. You should not be, let's back this project down, because it doesn't look like you know, you're going to be able to fit this into your monthly investment and your budget for the month. So yeah, you have to ask in the if and whens for sure.
Yeah, and by asking those if and whens, you're essentially, I guess, kind of breaking down those natural walls that the customer maybe puts up. Is that you're being non-intrusive with those questions? Is that the idea behind them?
Absolutely. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. And to be able to garner information throughout the process, you have to be very non-intrusive, and you have to ask an if and whens. When you're asking an if and whens, you're letting the customer know that, hey, I am not in your home to get a deal today. In fact, we'll say, we'll literally say, if you do the project next year, you know, would you most likely do this next year, or would you do this next year? So in their head, they're going, well, he's not trying to close me. You know what I mean? Yeah. He's asking me about next year what I would decide. That's easy for me, you know. So it's very important that you ask the right way. If not, you're going to come across as very aggressive, and they're not going to give you the information you're looking for.
Yeah, that's great. Appreciate that. Yep. Our next question is, and you touched on this just a little bit, but you know, value versus budget, and how do you address, and without, you know, it's an interesting way to position it to a homeowner, right? Like, you can't afford this. You don't want to say that, but you're asking them, what is your budget and how do you, what makes the most sense for your home and your investment? I know you use that word, which I really like. How do you address those type of concerns?
So throughout the presentation, we're asking questions about their budget. Very subtly, we're gathering that information. On an average month in the wintertime, Tom, what do you think your gas bill runs? Is it $70, $80? Is it $120? And a lot of times they'll pull it out. They'll be like, shit, I paid $150 last month. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what you're doing is you're gathering this information as time goes on. And then what we do at the very end is we do what's called a return on your investment. We take all of that information that we just got from the customer, and then we present it back to them, and we show them a savings that they're going to get by doing the project. And in fact, by year 3, year 5, year 6, you're going to get a return on your investment. So we do a lot of the calculating for them, if that makes any sense. And generally speaking, when we're doing our value versus budget with the customer, or what we call our cost versus value, that's right in the middle of our presentation. And it's a great time to really get into the resale value of the home, the equity position that they have. How long have you been in your home? How long do you plan on staying in your home? If the customer or tells you that they plan on staying in their home forever, that's great. That means you can amortize the cost of the project over the next 20 years for them versus their fuel savings that they're going to have, and show them like over the life of this project, you're actually going to make money. And listen, we sell window siding and doors, which are all energy efficient products. So there is a return on your investment through your gas bills or your electric bills. And we're able to show that there's an ROI, which is much different than a kitchen project or HVAC. So I would imagine it's a little tougher to do that, but that's exactly when we get into those questions.
Yeah, that's great. Appreciate that. I'm going to hand it back to Kelly.
Perfect. Yeah, it's a good time. We'll take a quick water break. Mike, if you want to grab a drink of water, give your voice a rest. And while he's doing that, if there's, if anyone in the audience has any questions, again, feel free to drop those in. We're happy to address those as we go along. And I did want to just take a quick second to just pop a question up. If anyone is interested in taking a tour of LEAP or finding some more information out about that, feel free to just check off one of the boxes that is popping up on your screen there. And I know there's something that we'll talk in a little bit more detail on the second half of this webinar, is like specifics of using LEAP in financing. But Mike, maybe if you could tell us a little bit about what made you want to check out LEAP and kind of what made the difference for you.
Sure. I'm glad you asked that question, because that is why we're here today. So not only did we understand that financing was important to our business, and I don't know if the crowd out there knows it, but it's 50% of our sales. Of the $100 million that we write in our sales, 50 million of it is financed with the customer through a finance company. So what we needed to figure out is how to streamline that process. And when Steve Stenzel, the founder of LEAP, came to Universal Windows Direct and presented the opportunity of partnering up with you guys, we took advantage of it right away, because LEAP had already partnered up with the lenders out there. It's a very streamlined process for our sales rep to get the customer the financing that they need, because it's right there in LEAP. A customer will fill out the credit app digitally with the LEAP application. We will get an instant credit decision right then and there, and then it marries and merges and dovetails with the contract. That's all in real time, and it's talking in addition to our CRM back at the office. So in real time, we've eliminated all of that processing that goes along with financing, all of that processing that goes along with the contract. And the next day when we walk into the office, all of that information is already sitting there in our CRM because of the Leap capabilities that they have with the finance companies and the contract, digital contract writing. So it was a very easy decision for us to get on board with Leap. And I truly, truly mean this from the bottom of my heart. If you are a contractor out there sitting in this webinar, wondering if you should take advantage of Leap, I can tell you firsthand that it has totally improved our business. The downside is we've eliminated a couple positions because of Leap. We didn't need 2 or 3 of our processors. Fortunately, we found other things for them to do, but by eliminating that position, it paid for the cost of the licensing that Leap charges, because you were able to streamline the entire process around financing and contract writing. And in addition to that, we were able to also house our presentation digitally on that iPad. So everything that we do, our whole life is basically that iPad. And the Leap platform is the vehicle that we use going into the homes. Sorry for the long-winded answer.
No, that's perfect. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that was
right.
really helpful.
Yeah, for sure. All right, and then we'll jump back into our presentation today with talking a little bit about your approach to finance and how you jump into that during the sales call.
Sure. So the question is, how do we approach getting the application?
Yeah. So Mike, just more specifically. Sorry, Kelly. More specifically, you know, a lot of contractors, I think, get the value of financing and understand that there is a benefit to it. And like you said, you know, I think you attributed 50% of the business to financing, and I think a lot of people understand that it can help them close more deals. I think, especially in siding, roofing, some of those trades, it's much less common. And I know for a lot of contractors, their big hurdle is like they see dealer fee and they don't know, you know, they don't know what to do, you know, how to account for that. And you can, you know, a lot of companies will have plans that have maybe 0 dealer fee all the way up to, you know, that dealer fee can get really high. And they're sometimes scared of their sales reps offering the wrong plan, or, you know, eating into the margin and not accounting for it as a cost of goods, you know, sold, just like you do with material and labor. So, you know, more generally, you know, what's your approach to being able to offer financing to your customers, and how do you maintain that and account for it and keep it, you know, within a reasonable thing that you can track and not have it cut into margins?
So actually, before we were with Leap, we were able to do this. It was a lot harder, I will say that. But if we know that we're going to have to finance the job with, let's say, 8% dealer fee on a $10,000 job, well, there's $800 that's coming off the top, making it a $9,200 job sales price. How we're able to combat that is once the sales rep chooses financing as the method of paying for the project, Leap then calculates for us in what the rep should be charging and adds that cost to the customer without the customer even knowing that the added cost was on there. You can, and listen, customers they understand that if they finance cost to us, and a lot of times we're transparent with it, but we don't have to be transparent because Leap is actually doing that cost add-on for us within the application. For instance, and I'll just try to put it in layman's terms, if the sales rep at the very beginning of his presentation knows that the customer said to them, well, I'll most likely probably take advantage of monthly investment. Well, we know at the end of at the end of the job, we need to give the customer finance pricing. So we're adding that $800 into the cost of the job before we even start pricing the job. And Leap does that for us because we know that we've check marked the actual financing portion within Leap. So listen, guys, financing, we're worried about financing costs too, and you must add it on to the job or it will become a problem in your business. And I can see why people were afraid, but Leap takes care of all of that for you. And you have the comfortability to know as an owner that that salesman has to charge a certain price. He just won't be able to fill out the contract too. It locks the sales rep from filling out the contract unless they're giving finance pricing through the Leap application. You guys can explain that better than I can. But because I'm not on the front lines all the time, but I know that to be true from how we present it with our sales reps. So that's how we
appreciate that. Yeah, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. No, I appreciate that and your approach to being able to offer financing to your customers. I know, like I said, I know that's a big hurdle in speaking with contractors. You know, that's the biggest reason I hear for not wanting to even offer financing is because there's a dealer fee, and your ability to calculate that into your price to where it becomes another cost of goods, I think is really important and makes it a viable solution for you. Another thing I want to touch on is, you know, within Leap, we obviously have multiple lenders in there, and when your sales reps are talking to the homeowner, they don't, you know, ask them, or maybe they do, but I don't think they ask them, you know, what's your credit score? And so, you know, there's different lenders that are prime and subprime, and you know, walk me through maybe how your sales reps approach that, and you know, do they send everybody to a prime lender, and then if that doesn't work, they send them to a subprime, or what's kind of the process there, or do they get an idea of what their credit is?
It's funny, sales reps will always pre-qualify in their own heads of what the customer's credit score will be. So
let's see a nice car in the driveway and they start.
Yes. And obviously through training, we tell them not to do that. But listen, all of these lenders that you have up on the screen right now, they all have different programs out there and approve at different levels. So what we do is we run everything through tier 1 first, no matter what. They go through tier 1 lending, and it's generally either 12 months same as cash or a 699 program. Sometimes we'll run a special where we're running 36 months same as cash, but we always do it through tier 1. So we'll go tier 1. And the nice thing about Leap, though, is they have it built into where they can waterfall it with some of these lenders. I won't give the lender name, but one of our lenders will immediately send the application to get a second look at one of the tier 2 lenders without us doing anything. So in the background, because we're using Leap, again, we're able to get a decision not only from the tier 1 lender, but also the tier 2 lender simultaneously. Meaning if the tier 1 lender won't approve it, they'll send it off to tier 2, and then it'll come back approved through the Leap Pro platform, and we'll, you know, give congratulations to the customer that they've been approved for financing. So it's completely streamlined, and that's the advantage of using Leap is using that waterfall method. The other thing is if you don't have Leap, but you do decide to get into financing, what you're going to have to do, guys, is you're going to have to fill out individual credit applications for all of these different lenders. If you do have an iPad without Leap, you could enter all that information individually into each website and get a decision. But I'm telling you, that's tedious, and the customer gets very, very uncomfortable through that process. Like, wait a minute, you just ran it again, and you're running it again. Where by using Leap, it appears as if you're running it once. You're letting them know, hey, we're running it through several lenders right now, but you get a decision like that. and the customer doesn't get on edge because of it. So whether you use Leap or not, guys, I do suggest you do add financing for sure to your program, but Leap is going to help with the whole waterfall and getting a quicker decision.
Yeah, I'm glad you touched on that, because one of the things that some of our top contractors, we see them doing is, and you see it on the screen here, it says blank credit app, and essentially they take that credit app and create it in a way that it catches every field of the various lenders that they have on their platform, on set up in their Leap account, and they'll fill that one credit app out, and then they can submit that credit app to each of the different lenders, because once you fill in the information in that generic credit app, it'll carry over into each of the other applications that you're filling out. So again, you click on that tier 1, and then if that doesn't work, click on that tier 2 lender, and so on. And maybe even if neither one of those pick it up, maybe you bring it back to the office and you have a credit union or another lender that you can run that to. But again, you're not having to ask the customer for that information again, which makes it seem, it throws a wrinkle in the process, but it also makes it seem maybe you don't have all your ducks in a row.
And Tom, just so you know, we're working on the legacy side of financing too. Let's just say hypothetically, and I don't want to get too into the weeds, but we're working on, if the customer didn't get approved at all, right? What we used to do is that deal was dead. It would just literally go in the la-la land. But now we're doing what's this loss recovery division within our company, to where we're trying to get history. And in 6 months, we're calling that customer back and rerunning that credit. And without Leap, we wouldn't be able to house that digitally. Because what happens is the minute you press send with the finance company, that information becomes the finance company's, right? And what we're doing is trying to keep some of that information so we can rerun that opportunity later at a later date. Just because you lost it that day doesn't mean that customer might not improve their score in three to 5 months. And in the past, that just became what we call a dead deal. And now we're trying to recover, and we've had some success recovering some of these legacy deals.
That's really interesting. Is that like an inside team that's working that?
Yep.
And do they, no, because I'm curious, do they stay in touch with that customer and
Yes.
give them any advice to, like, here's the ways to improve your credit?
It's funny. We're kind of getting off the beaten path here, but
Sure.
They absolutely do. And two of our loss recovery team specialists were prior mortgage brokers. So what they do is they help build that customer's credit. And a lot of times customers don't know how to build their own credit. So we become a consultant for them on improving their credit. And so by the time it's time to do the project, they're our customer already. So yes, we see a tremendous opportunity, because even though 50% of our business is finance, we lose a lot of 30% of that business, or 30% of our business is lost to financing too. So we have to start recovering some of those at a later date. So we put together that team.
That's really really interesting. I like that idea, and I guess you're building a lot of value in the company, and probably a lifelong customer at that point. Once you've helped them get to that point where they can now afford that project that they wanted to do, they're going to look to you for any other additional work that they may need on their house. That's really interesting how it can all kind of snowball from just the beginning of our conversation about just offering financing to your customers.
Well, and
that's really
one last thing I'd like to touch on that subject is you guys have been great. And anytime we have an idea or something that you guys might not have seen, we will call you guys, and you guys are more than open to helping us with the strategy and understanding what it is we're trying to accomplish, and seeing if you can dovetail what you guys are doing with what we're doing. So you guys have been very easy to work with when it comes to new ideas or new ventures that's out there in the home improvement space.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and be sure to pass that along. And I think that's one of the unique things about Leap, having been built by, well, Steve, but having been built by somebody that actually sold, in the home, really understanding the needs of the sales rep and of the business owners, and the way that the product evolves is that continuous feedback. And so we definitely appreciate that and want to make sure that we're driving the product in the same direction as our customers are going. So really appreciate that. We're almost here to the end. I guess just to wrap it all up, if you want to, or if you can, touch on how financing helps facilitate the closing of a deal and kind of putting a bow on it all.
Sure. Financing allows us to give the customer the dream they've been looking for. A lot of times we'll walk into a home and a customer will see an initial price and they literally, their shoulders will slouch and they'll think to themselves, I can't afford this. But what financing does is there's so many different programs and products out there, is it allows you to fit that project into the customer's budget, basically at any rate. If the customer can only afford $200 a month, that doesn't mean that they can't do that $12,000 project. So it just gives us tremendous flexibility when talking with the customer in the home. Obviously, we all want the cash deal, right? We want the customer to pay $12,000 for the project in cash because there's no dealer fee with it. However, we all realistically, customers don't have that type of money just sitting around. So this allows the customer and the company to come to an agreement to where everybody is comfortable, and it allows us just to do more business, and it helps us close that deal.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and really appreciate that. We're going to move into the Q&A session next. So if anybody has questions, please type them in the control panel. But I just wanted to thank you for coming on. I mean, this is really valuable information that you're sharing with us and with the contractors that are on the webinar. Is there anything that we forgot to cover here before we open it up to Q&A?
I think we've covered it. One thing I do want to touch on is it also allows us to capture more leads. If you're a contractor out there that has problems with getting leads, or let's say you're doing pay-per-click, television, radio, by offering finance in your advertisement, whether it's a lost leader or it's 60 months same as cash, it's going to help you get the phone ringing too, because that customer that's sitting on the sideline that doesn't feel like they can afford it, when they see I have 5 years to pay for the project, whether you want to offer that or not, it's up to you. But when they have 5 years to pay for the project, it will get your phone ringing too. So it not only helps on the sales side, it helps tremendously on the marketing side too. Right now we're running what's called 000, zero payments for. Sorry, my phone.
It's got your phone ringing off the hook. It's a finance.
But yeah, we're able to offer that, and it absolutely does get the phone ringing, because we'll pick up the phone, and instead of a customer saying, "Hey, I'm calling about windows," the first thing they'll say is, "Hey, I'm calling because you're offering 12 months same as cash. Is that true?" So we know financing has a tremendous effect on the business, not only on the sales side, but more importantly, the marketing side. So it will boost your lead count, and I just want to make sure I get that point across.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That's thank you for sharing that. I'm going to turn it over to Kelly here in 1 minute, but I know there's a story about you having met Sir Richard Branson, and I think it's funny. So if you don't mind sharing, I know we have a few minutes.
Sure. Real fast. In 2009, we were contacted by Ernst & Young which is an accounting firm, but they have Entrepreneur of the Year awards regionally and nationally. They contacted us and said, hey, we love your business. Send us over your financials. We'd like to see if you qualify as a finalist for being Entrepreneurs of the Year in Northeast Ohio. Where Bill and I were like, wow, this is great. This is prestigious award. Sent it over, went through the interview process with Ernst & Young. Remember that day like it was yesterday. We were hobnobbing all around the room with the finalists and the everybody at Ernst & Young, and we went to the awards that night, not expecting to win at all. I mean, we're just two kids knocking on doors, growing a home improvement company, and finally the category came up to announce the regional winner, and they said, Bill and Mike, we stood up in disbelief, like, did we just win Ernst & Young Entrepreneurs of the Year award? Went up on stage. We didn't even have a speech ready.
Right.
So little did we know that if you're a regional winner, you get sent out to become a national winner, and that's out in California in the desert. Ernst & Young throws this huge award seminar, and you meet people like Bill Ford, Jack's Beef Jerky Link guy, the guy who founded Rosetta Stone, you name it. The who's who. Magic Johnson was there, Steve Kerr, and one of the speakers that year was Sir Richard Branson. And Bill and I have always said he's our favorite entrepreneur. Elon Musk is getting close now, but at the time it was him. And we're like, we got to get a picture with him. So he walks off stage, right, Tom? And Bill goes one way to try to catch him. I go the other way. We're on our cell phones, like, where'd he go? Where'd he go? And we're in the parking lot. We see him heading towards his car. I'm like, Bill, head him off. And we meet up with him. And Bill's like, ask him for a picture. I'm like, no, you ask him. And Bill's like, Sir Richard Branson. And his voice was like, can we get a picture? And I can see it clear as day. He's like, no problem, sure. And we stood next to him, got a picture with him, spoke with him for about 5 minutes, and it was a dream come true. And it was a paradigm shift too for Bill and I, that hey, we're going to take this thing. Who knows how far we can take this thing?
Yeah, to the moon, right?
Yeah.
Is that you still have that picture? Is that framed somewhere in the new building?
It's in our new building in our executive conference room. So
that's cool.
It's a funny picture, but yeah, that was really when things really started taking off. That's for another time, but you got to get your mind straight to be able to grow your business, and it really allowed us to get our mind pointed in the right direction.
Yeah, that's really great. I know it's valuable information for the people on the webinar. So anyways, thank you. Really appreciate it, Mike. I'm going to hand it over to Kelly, but it's been great speaking to you and getting a chance to learn more about your business and how you incorporate financing into it. So thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Mike. I do have one question for you just to kind of close things out today. Would you have any advice for anyone out there who might be considering moving digital or maybe possibly evaluating Leap? Just any words of advice from your experience going through that process?
Wow. Yeah, I mean, simply and quickly is, guys, it's going to benefit you and it's going to help your business grow. It's going to make it more efficient. You won't need as many touch points that you normally have in processing and procuring the deal. It also helps you on the production side, not only the sales side and the finance side, but it just speeds up the whole process. And from A to Z, it just makes your life so much easier. So if you are thinking about it, it's something I highly, highly suggest all of you guys at least take a look at and try out, even if it's 1 or 2 licenses, and see if it's for you. It's something that all of you guys should do because it will help your business.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. And thanks again for your time and coming on today. I think this was very helpful and very practical and applicable information for our listeners here today. And thanks, Tom, for jumping on and talking with us. Appreciate that.